Hey there, and welcome to today's daily premium newsletter for April 19th. So the market's progress is seemingly without breaks as it's climbed nearly 20 billion today, marking 1 week of positive movement for crypto. Still not much in the grand scheme of things, but this could represent the shifting tide should we continue on this path. What's got us interested is that once again we're seeing the rise of altcoins against Bitcoin. Looking at the Bitcoin dominance chart, it slid 3% in the last 7 days. That might not sound like much, but this is the first time we've seen Bitcoin under 40% dominance since February. Expanding our view to see the progress of this year so far, we can clearly see that the overall trend for Bitcoin's dominance is intact to the downside. Expanding our view to see the progress of this year so far, we can clearly see that the overall trend for Bitcoin's dominance has peaked and is starting to go down. While we still have a ways to go to see the low 30% dominance values for Bitcoin we encountered in January, it could indicate that Bitcoin's position as number one is once again under pressure. We've never seen Bitcoin lose its place at the top, and there's a growing chorus of those who believe we need to see that happen in order to move forward as a space. We're certainly on the fence regarding whether or not it's the right time for that to happen. On one hand, it certainly does represent the sign of the times that a more advanced cryptocurrency like Ethereum could take its place. On the other hand, we're not entirely sure if Ethereum is ready to handle that position, as Bitcoin has served as a scapegoat for many of the criticisms laid upon cryptocurrency as a whole. Not to mention, most people are not even aware of any cryptocurrency beyond Bitcoin, if they're aware of cryptocurrency at all. We see Bitcoin's fall as inevitable. It's just a question of when and what the implications are to the greater market when that will happen. One reason we see that as the case is that Bitcoin's chief responsibility right now, outside of being the face of crypto, is to serve as the trading pair for the majority of cryptocurrencies. If you've ever traded with altcoins, you'll know that sometimes the only way to acquire them is to trade with Bitcoin. Your fiat currency does not have a place on a platform like Binance. Until now. We previously reported that Binance would be seeking fiat to crypto pairs in an effort to become more relevant, and now that it's moved to Malta, that could become a reality as the nation's banks are about to close a deal that would allow the cryptocurrency exchange to accept fiat deposits and withdrawals. Bitcoin has long been the glue that held the cryptocurrency markets together. Having such a reliance on the unstable currency creates market volatility in line with the moves of Bitcoin. No matter what the currency you're holding is doing, it will be affected in price by the price of Bitcoin. And for a growing number of people, that cannot be allowed to continue. So Binance's move to Malta and the subsequent fiat to crypto pairs would be seen as an exciting, albeit nerve-wracking time in crypto. Moving the overall market to a reliance on more stable currencies will certainly help to curb the extremely volatile nature of the market, which in turn will help to attract institutional and mainstream investment. But at the same time, that volatile nature has been what's given crypto such a reputation for making millionaires seemingly overnight. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like you can have one without the other. Last for today, ICOs, or initial coin offerings, have slowed down in 2018, seemingly in response to tighter regulations and market conditions. That being said, the amount of money raised with them has not. So far in 2018, ICOs have raised more money than in all of 2017 combined. That's an astounding amount of money and projects that have proliferated the landscape in such a small amount of time. The biggest by far has been the Telegram ICO, which alone has raised $1.7 billion. Even excluding Telegram, however, ICOs in the first quarter have raised $4.6 billion, or 85% of the 2017 total. Before I go, I just want to say thank you to everyone who came on the webinar last night. If you missed it, it was about security and wallets, and you can check out the recording on the newsletter itself. Now I'll turn it over to Doc. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you this weekend.
Hey guys, good evening. It's Doc for ReadySetCrypto. So we do have many of the top 10 coins as well as lots of altcoins that are actually starting to transition into a primary uptrend. Now this might be just end up being a bear market rally, but honestly I don't care at this point. It's a tradable move and we can ride this for as long as possible until we get the next downturn, and then we'll find out what this market really wants to do, whether or not we're going to plunge to new lows and go for that capitulation, or maybe, just maybe, we're going to start to see the market recover and start to work higher from here. Remember, anything can happen, and the more that you have a bias, the more likely that the opposite will happen to you. Okay, so what can you do right now with some of these moves? If you're seeing a coin that's going into a primary uptrend, so a Bitcoin right now is flagging out. Let's look at one here that's in a primary uptrend. Ethereum is a good example of one that's in a primary uptrend. Okay, so again, you can look at some of these and you can start to see things like Ripple. Ripple's making higher highs and higher lows. It's breaking out of flag patterns and moving higher. Okay, here's Bitcoin Cash, again, moving from higher highs and higher lows. Now, if you evaluate and determine that one of these coins is moving into a primary uptrend, the first thing that we don't want to do here is to filter. We want to filter using the daily chart. And what I would recommend doing is putting the CHOP index on here, or whatever your favorite study is. Mine happens to be the CHOP index in terms of this. But I'm not going to go against CHOP index value that's in exhaustion, which is anything below 38.2 is in exhaustion. So for example, as we look at Ethereum looks great right now, but the probabilities of seeing this thing go higher from here may be diminished. So we're going to look around, we're going to see if we can find something that's not already in exhaustion. And this is kind of to my point yesterday. Now here is EOS has already gone into exhaustion and has worked that off, so you can see what happens. Now what you want to do is you want to find something that's in a primary uptrend, and as long as it's not in exhaustion, this is where we're going to go down to the 1 hour chart. So we're going to go down to the 1 hour chart, and I'll show you what you want to look for. You want to look for something similar to this with Bitcoin Cash, where we have, obviously this is moving into a primary uptrend. It's doing that stair-stepping deal. And this has got confluence of two signals at once, which are somewhat parallel, somewhat redundant. We have, first of all, a Bollinger squeeze. So these pink lines here are the Bollinger Bands, standard 20 moving average, 2 standard deviations. Okay, so that's a squeeze there. You can see the bands are squeezing into the price and showing that essentially it's going nowhere. What you're also seeing in the CHOP index is a huge amount of energy, running up to about 70. So remember that the CHOP index is almost sort of like a gas gauge for the potential movement going forward. So full, empty down here. So on the 60-minute chart, it's empty and is starting to flag out at the next level again. So this will more than likely repeat. So range expansion, range contraction, range expansion, contraction, expansion, contraction. What you're looking to do is to get it before it goes into the next expansion phase. But again, all this is great, but you have to go out to the daily chart and say, does the daily chart, or the anchor chart in this case, so we have anchor and a signal. So the anchor is going to be your daily chart, and does this support you going long at this level? No, it does not. So this is going to filter you out of this. Now remember, the way I like to do positions like this is using a fixed risk position. So what I will do is I will assign 2% of my capital as a max for the position, and then I have a don't care attitude towards it. So I don't put a stop into here. I just let it go, and I have, of course, an exit, not only a profitable exit. In this case, I don't have to worry about a non-profitable exit because I can just let it go. I can just assign that 2% risk and then hold it if I want to for later on. So remember, with a swing trade like this, if you're using these fractals like this with an anchor chart on the daily and a signal chart, perhaps on the 60-minute chart, again, you want everything to be kind of lined up. And very frankly, the best way to take something like this is you want to take it. So let's go back to Bitcoin Cash, and let's just assume that we did have energy on this. So let's go back to the 1 hour chart. You can see that catching the actual breakout is actually very difficult. So catching the breakout, in this case, it's occurring at 12 o'clock UTC on 4/19, which is 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time in the United States, so which is also 5 o'clock in the morning Pacific time in the United States. So are you going to be up for that? Maybe, maybe not. You know, will your alerts catch it in time? Will they wake you up, or will they call your attention to a trade that's breaking out like this? Maybe, maybe not. Again, so when you find something like this, many times, especially if you're using a fixed risk position, as you get the energy levels to be where you want, as you get all the signals to be where you want, you can enter in advance. So you can preempt the breakout. And that assumes the breakout will keep going in the same direction as the trend on the daily chart, which again is your anchor. All right, folks, that is it for today's report. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you this weekend with a weekend report. Take care.